we're the another episode of Coffee and Calls, and we have another guest, Mr. Mark Tredway. He is 28 years in fire service, along with lots of other stuff, and I'll let him just go ahead and name all that he's done so far.
I hope that y'all have enough recording. My name is Mark Tredway. I joined the fire service in 1990. I became full-time in 1991, worked my way up through the ranks, became fire chief in 2011, retired in 2019. During that time, I worked part-time on the ambulance service, deputy sheriff, Homeland Security Director for my parish that I live in. After retirement of the fire service, I became the assistant chief at the Louisiana State Fire Marshals office, and at this time, I am the assistant chief over governmental and fire service liaison for the State Fire Marshals office.
It's a long title.
That's a very long time.
It's a long title.
Yeah, but it's a lot of important work, I guess. You do, huh?
Sure it is.
So, we're here at the 121st Louisiana State Firemen Association Conference. It's been a good experience so far. Been a lot of good classes, a lot of good networking with everybody. Um, You've been a part of it since you were original member in 91, you said?
That's correct. I joined the Louisiana State Firemen Association in 1991. I ran for office in 2015, was elected. Then I served until became second vice president, and then moved up to first vice president. And then last year, at this time in New Orleans, I was elected as president, and this has been my presidential year.
Is this something to get into, like being the representative and then president? Is this something you always wanted to do, or it's like,
I did because when I was a rookie firefighter, my fire chief that hired me was a member of this association. Actually, in 1970, my fire chief that hired me was the president of this association. And also in 1970, I was born. And then fast forwarded 20 years, that fire chief hired me, and now I am the president of the association that he was in the year that I was born. So the association has meant a lot to me. It's a great organization. We cover the entire state and members in the fire service and volunteers and professionals and combinations, but we represent about 14,000 firefighters statewide. So it's the largest fire service organization in the state and the oldest. Is like you said, it's the 121st conference.
What got you into the fire service? What made you want to do this for your career?
Well, actually, when I turned 18 years old, that's, that's when you're supposed to. My first application was at the sheriff's office.
Mm-hmm.
I really wanted to be in law enforcement, but at the time, the sheriff said he wasn't hiring, and a good friend of mine that I had been best friends with since elementary school was working full time at the fire department, and he asked me one day I should join as a volunteer. And I did. And I really began to like it. I like public service. And it was on a Saturday. I won't ever forget it. On a Saturday, I went by the fire station, and the fire chief, his name was Chief Maurice Newton, was washing his chief's truck. I whipped in and told him, I said, "You don't need to be washing that. You're the chief. You need to and we kind of giggled, and he said, "Let me ask you something, Treadway." And I said, "Sir," he said, "Would you like to be a full-time fireman?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Would you really?" And I said, "Yes, sir." So that following Monday, I came to the fire station. We went to City Hall and we filled out applications. And a few weeks or months later, I can't remember, but the fire chief called me and told me that the mayor had approved to hire me if I was still willing. So that's really how I became a member. served for 28 years there and wound up being the chief. So my first aspirations, I wanted to be the popo, but then the fire service stepped in, and here we are 36 years later.
That's definitely taking you forward too, seems like.
It has taken me all over the state,
Mm-hmm.
and I have thoroughly enjoyed my career. I can look back at the 36 years and see that I did not enjoy not anything that I'd chosen to do, from getting becoming an EMT and then an intermediate and then working 24 hours at the station, 24 hours on the ambulance, taking a day off and starting all over. I do not remember a time that I didn't enjoy what I was doing. It's a tough career. It's tough physically and mentally, but it's been probably the most rewarding career that I think that someone could go into is the fire service.
Would you say that's kind of like, what would you say would be your passion for doing this?
I think the passion is being there at the victim's worst time. I look at a fire sometimes and I think that's got to be the closest thing to death without dying, because you've lost everything. There's nothing left, and at times, unfortunately, there's fatalities. So you're there, at their worst time because they've lost everything, or they've lost a portion of the house that they built, or lost their, motor home that they've saved up to. But you're there for their worst time, other than death. And sometimes, unfortunately, there's death. But and if you don't have a caring heart and a heart that wants to serve and be a true public servant, then the fire service is not where you need to be. You can't do it, I think.
Yeah, you got to have a lot of sympathy and empathy
You do.
going into it.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt. You need to be a public servant.
And going back, would you do everything the same?
I believe so. I believe so. I think the only thing that I would probably want to try to do more of, and I didn't do this because of a small town rural area in which I came from, but I would try to be more of a career student. You have to go get this certification. You got to go get this one. But I went and got them, but I did not, I wasn't smart enough back then,
Right.
to say, oh, well, if I could take this extra one, this might help me down the road. Or if I might take this one, it would. So I would go back and really become. I would have a wall of certificates instead of appreciations, probably.
Yeah.
Is that what you'd say would be something you'd give your younger self, some advice you'd give your younger self?
I do that. I even do that now when I go all over the state now on the behalf of the fire marshal in reference to the job that I do now. I've added in several things, and I had the opportunity to be over a portion of the training division at the fire academy, and that opened my eyes a lot on we should be in the fire service. The leaders now really should be pushing now that you are at our age and we're closer to being through than beginning, to ensure that we tell them don't stop. That I say this and when I speak all over the state now, anything can be taken away from you.
Right.
Your car can be repossessed, your house can be burned down, your wife can leave you, you but there's one thing that can't be taken away from you. That's your education. Who can take it? That you can't take away your education.
Mhm.
So go get it. While you're young, you young firemen that are inspired to be great firemen and hopefully be fire chiefs or district chiefs one day, go get as much education and training because they can't take it away from you. You can be fired, But your next job, it's going to take that education to get there. So go get that education because it can't be taken away from you.
Do you think so? I've only had 2 years full time, and I've gotten a number of certs. But do you think like a person should have some experience to go along, like say getting an officer cert, or you think you should just get it as soon as you can?
Well, I think either way, because I mean, if you go after that officer certifications prior to you being an officer, it's going to show, I think, it's going to show you and give you the advantage and hopefully make you a better officer. But listen, education is great. I preach it and teach it nowadays, but there's nothing in this world like experience. I remember going into it in my emergency medical technician class one day, and the paramedic that was teaching us said, "We're going to teach you, but once you get through, you throw that book out the window because it's not the same in the back of that ambulance," which is the truth.
Yep.
Okay, so you have to learn it, you have to study it, you've got to master it, but the real world issues is going to trump that certificate hanging on the wall. But that certificate is going to give you enough baseline education to know how to handle that in the back of that ambulance or handle that trapped in a house fire. It teaches you how to, get yourself out, or, so it's all intertwined together, in a sense. And between education and experience, there's nothing that's going to stop you from being what you want to be.
Uh, Going back to Kyle Romigus had a class at the conference, and he mentioned a lot of stuff about having to kind of they teach them this at the academy, but then real life experiences they kind of got to teach them a little bit different. But
Absolutely. I mean, it's really mind-boggling at times that you're taught a certain way to get a certification and or a degree, and then real life actions of every day riding that engine and has nothing to do with that certification on the wall.
yeah, yeah,
Well, a lot of it goes back to issues that have happened in the past, whether it's lawsuits or whatnot. So they got to teach you to do it a certain way. But at the end of the day, you got to do what works.
You have to do what it takes to survive every day, regardless of what you have hanging on the wall at the office or at the firehouse.
Now, looking back over your career, would you say you've had a lot of calls under your belt?
I'd say I've had a lot of calls and 28 years at the station, and then these 7 or 8 years with the marshal's office because state fire marshal at the time, when he hired me, he asked me to respond to fatalities to make sure that some of the executive staff is on the scene there. So um, I've had quite a few calls. Yes, sir.
how many calls would you say y'all ran, like say in a year at Jonesboro?
Our average calls was between 300 and 400 calls
So,
before we started doing EMS. After EMS, it ran on up to 7, 8, 900, and I think now they're running nearly 1,000 calls a year. So it significantly increased after we started running EMS under my division, my supervision as fire chief. So we went from 300 calls to 1,000 calls.
are there any that like just really stick out to you? Serious, funny, or just
Well, yeah. Oh, there's always calls. It amazes me sometimes. The fire chief now, I mean, he'll call and ask, hey, where's that hydrant at, or and I can still tell him, or and I can ride the streets of my hometown and remember, you know, I had a trauma over here, or delivered a baby over here. I mean, it's amazing how things like that never escape your memory. And but I've had some traumatic calls. I really have over my career. There's been children fatalities and elderly that It's and of course funny ones, but they all major wrecks for some reason sticks into my mind even more than fires, and I think because as a fire chief, I knew that my department had we could fight a fire. I mean, my men could fight fire, But what would worry me at night was, are we going to get there quick enough to get someone educated, extricated, or are we going to have enough people on scene to get, being in a combination small area, that was always a worrisome for me as a chief. Am I going to have the manpower to take care of the call that they're, because I took it personally. I was a chief for 11 years and never took a vacation because I wanted to make sure that I was there if something happened, because the buck stops in my office, so it might as well stop on the scene, when I'm there. But fire calls and fatality calls we've had, I've had so many. Children, I remember working on the engine, and it was they called for a child was shot, and we came to get ready to prepare for the helicopter, and the people lived out on the outskirts, and I was in the ER, and when the sister of the little girl that got shot came through the double doors, she made eye contact with me because I knew her, and she came straight to me. Didn't take it to the doctor, to the nurse, and gave me the unresponsive sister straight the child for, it seemed like hours because we just didn't want to give up. But that call, it doesn't haunt me because it was really nothing, it was truly an accidental incident. But that call still haunts me because when I see that lady today, I go right back to her running through them double doors of that hospital and giving me her baby sister. So and I know her extremely well, her family, and her. It never leaves me when I see her. So that that sticks with me. You know, and we had an elderly lady that fell asleep on her couch, and her grandson came in and was cooking something to eat, and he fell asleep, and he got out and she didn't, you know. So little, I mean, things like that, like, was wasn't her fault, So uh fatalities, I remember, I can nearly tell you every one of them and where they were. We've had multiple whole families pass away, in a fire. Vehicle accidents where they were trapped, and the vehicle caught on fire, and they deceased due to the fact that they were trapped and the vehicle was on fire. So there's really so many. Um, there's a lot. And of course, one of the funniest ones, the chief now, he was my investigator and a firefighter. I made him go up the uh, ladder and climb a tree and get a cat down. They clawed him up all the way down, So, I mean, you can go from literally, dealing with a cat clawing you to the next call being a fatality.
Yeah.
So it never stops.
So I've kind of been asking everybody this just to kind of see, because everybody handles the stressful calls differently, like the fatals and stuff. And, the fire service is doing a better job now of it, like telling you, want to talk about it, therapy and all this and that. What's something, I'm sure it's probably, I don't know if it's different as a chief too, but when you start as a firefighter, what's something you would do or how would you handle that? And then as a chief, would you handle it the same way, or is it different when you're a chief, or?
It's different because as a firefighter, I think I let it bother me more because of I'm looking at it as that's my job. Sometimes I would tell myself I should have got there quicker, or I wish I'd have checked this room quicker, or I wish I would have. deploy the line. I mean, you just
All the
play
what ifs.
every scenario when you're, especially when you're a rookie fireman or a young fireman. You know, you play. That's where you go. You go back to that training. Could I have, or should I, would I? You know,
Yeah.
but the outcome is going to be the same. I told my fireman the outcome is going to be the same. Don't. You know, and as a chief, am I teaching my firemen to make sure that they can cut that car out quick enough to get them out? As a chief, I'm asking, am I drilling? Am I training my firemen to know to when they deploy line, left hand surge or check? So as a chief, I'm thinking, I'm still thinking even though as a firefighter, I also thought myself, could I have done something different? Well, as you move through the ranks and become the chief, you're thinking, okay, me, the chief, am I teaching my firemen? Am I educating them? Am I training them to do and be the best that they can be? So it's still, even though I, as a fireman, it becomes I, as a chief, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? So it never leaves you.
Yeah.
It never leaves. It never leaves you.
What's that?
I mean, I still think about it, even though, when, when the department that spent my career at calls me and say, hey, we had a fatality or we had whatever. Well, that chief of that department was mine. I mean, I hired him, I trained him, and I recommended him to be the chief. Okay. So when he calls me and tells me of a call or whatever, I still think that I train him good enough. Is he doing what he's supposed to be doing now as a chief? Did I
Right.
prepare him well enough to be the chief? So even though I've been retired since 2019, when I still hear things going on at that department, especially if it involves some of the people that I hired or have anything to do with, I still think sometimes that I, as their chief or as their assistant chief or whatever, did I prepare them for where they are today?
Well, that is something you always got to think about because, like one of them guys said yesterday in class, if something ever goes wrong, first thing they're going to do is go to training records.
Mm-hmm.
Was this person properly trained? Did they get the proper CEs and continued ed and whatnot? Well, that goes back on the chief and admin. Were they supplying it correctly and annually like they're supposed to? So,
It never leaves the chief's office. I mean, the old saying is true. The buck stop here. I mean, I've been in court. I've testified. I've had to supply records. I've had to do depositions, and the lawyers want to know, what training and education, certification, and the degrees, you know, that you have. Because if you don't if you don't have them, I don't know the outcome because we had them, but you have to, you've got to have it, and it all boils down to, you know, are you willing to do it? That's the thing. Some people think that you can put a little light on your truck and put a little siren in there and you're 10 foot tall and bulletproof, but you can't do that anymore. You used to could do that. I mean, way back you could do that, but when times change and training changes, education changes, you have to go after it because if you don't, you really don't need to be in it because it will come back and take something away from you if you don't have it.
Gotta be willing,
The court system's not never on your side.
no. Once you get in that red truck, you become a target.
Yep.
if you don't mind, kind of, if you can elaborate on, so what were you in, what did you have to go to court for?
Arson.
Okay.
Yeah, arson calls.
Gotcha.
One of the big commercial structural in our area caught fire, and I requested the fire marshal's office. But of course, they want that. I mean, we were the first ones on the scene, so we went to court on that call. I've been to court on motor vehicle accidents, medical calls when we started running medical. That's a big thing that a chief has to, especially if a chief does not run medical calls, then it's approach them to. It took a lot of convincing to my mayor for us to start running calls because of the liability. First thing my mayor said, "Are we gonna get sued?" Well, mayor, I'm not sure.
Maybe.
But I mean, we have to. We have to. You know. So, but yeah, I've met arson call. Arson is the ones.
I mean, paperwork.
Gotta have- First thing that I mean, they send you the deposition, and they wanna, you got to supply lawyers training and copies of certificates and copies of, they want it, and if not, well, they're gonna first thing gonna talk to you about is why you a fireman, you don't know how to put on the gear.
Always comes back to record keeping and documentation, and that's one thing that stuck out with me through every training you do nowadays. They tell you as soon as you write on a piece of paper, it becomes a legal document.
It
So
is.
you got to watch everything you say, how you word things.
And we've had reports. We had to supply lawyers' offices that public records request that an attorney would send into the office, and of course I had to send it to our attorney, first, and then we would, send it to them. But it's everything that the chief or whomever does your reporting system puts in that report. It's a document.
So you had a long career in the fire service, and you retired. And I feel like, and we know some people that's probably going to work till they die, but some people would probably hang it up and want to go to the house. But what made you want to be like, or what happened to get you into the fire marshal's office?
Well, I knew, I feel like that I've always said to myself, I know when it's time to leave. I was not going to be the chief that everybody wished would leave. I knew that my budget had maxed out. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to buy $1 million fire truck. I wasn't going to be able to build a $5 million station. I wasn't going to be able to hire 20 people. I had done everything I thought I could have done to bring my department and let it be the best that I thought it was and to be. And there was nothing else that I could reach financially or budgetarily to make my department better. Okay. I had plateaued out. So instead of just being a statue, then I can go home. I can maybe the person that comes after me sees something that I couldn't achieve and go achieve it. I didn't want to get petrified there and just become. I never wanted that. Um, so I told myself if I ever became a chief, I'll work until I've plateaued and there's nothing else that I think or the mayor and I can't advance the department to. Then I would leave. If I was eligible to leave, with a retirement, then that's what I do, and that's what I did. I stayed 28 years, 25 years, and then 8 years in the drop system, and I left. At the time, the fire marshal of the state of Louisiana was a good friend of mine, and he asked would I be interested in coming to the marshal's office. Well, at that time I was 48. I wasn't going to be digging around in no arson. I was through with all that. So I went into the administration side of the marshal's office, and I've been several different positions in the marshal's office since 2019. I was hired as his executive assistant, and then went into the director of emergency services. Hurricane Ida was my first hurricane as the director of emergency services, and I was the commander of that storm that had 2,600 people under my command. So I've been able to do some wonderful things in the marshal's office that I would have never thought. And that was one, get to travel the state and see. I don't know how many, but I've been in quite a few fire stations throughout the state, from volunteers to full time, to from New Orleans to Chalmette to Shreveport to Oakdale. So I've had that opportunity, which has been really phenomenal for someone that, spent his entire life in the fire service and have the opportunity throughout the marshal's office to help and assist fire departments throughout the state. So, as emergency service director, I was able to do a lot with when storms, when Shreveport froze over, we was able to, when they EMAX some requests, and we sent tankers from all over the state of Louisiana to Shreveport to help them. So it's been a rewarding career in the fire marshal's office, just as it was 28 years at the fire service. So the fire marshal's office was more on a statewide, level than just my community there at home. But it's been good so far.
Now, you've done everything from firefighter, chief, fire marshal's office, LSFA. You've done a lot of stuff over your career. You said you worked for DHS.
Homeland Security
Homeland
Director.
Security. So, I mean, you've done a lot of things. You've interacted with a lot of people, obviously, from all over the state, probably people outside of Louisiana. One day, when you're old and retired, many years from now, how do you want all these people to remember you? What do you want when they think of Mark Tredway? What do you want them to, man, that guy was
A public servant. I don't have to have the titles named after me. I don't. I mean, once you've had them, you know, even today, and I know it's out of due respect, and I respect because I give respect, but I can walk the halls of this hotel, okay, at this conference, and people, hey chief, how you doing? Morning, chief. Come on. And I haven't been fire chief since 2019. I I I respect it. I respect to be respected,
right.
and I appreciate, but I don't have to have. I don't want. I don't think I want people to be remembered as the fire chief or the Homeland Security Director or the assistant chief of the fire marshal's office. Or I think what I want people if I could, is that when he called, he helped, and he was a public servant. I don't titles does not excite me anymore. Of course, that they need to excite you when you're a rookie fireman. You want to be the fire chief one day, and
Have some kind of goal.
you have to have a goal. You have to have, but you need to be respected. You have to give respect. You have to honor where honor is due, and you have to be a public servant. And I think I want to be remembered as a public servant than anything else. He helped me when he was called upon. As fire chief in a small town, you just not fire chief. I mean, people would call and say, "Hey, trash truck emptied my trash and my barrels fell over. Mark, would you come?" You know, or the mosquitoes is bad because the ditch is holding water. And you have to get with public works. So it's more in my hometown. Being a rural part of North Central Louisiana. I mean, when you become that public servant, you just don't become fire chief. You become the works director, the police department. You play, even you just play a role, and that's what I want to be remembered as when he called, I helped, and I want to be. He was a good public servant.
So, sorry.
That's right. That's right. You don't. That's really no different. I love helping people. And I think that's what's kept me going for 36 years. That's every day I get up, I'm going somewhere to do something for somebody or something, or and assist or help, and that's what keeps me going. I love to help people.
I am also kind of interested. You've been all over the state to different fire departments. Besides, the obvious minimum funding and minimum staffing, or not enough funding, I should say. What's one of the, like the, what would you say is probably the biggest problem that you've seen in fire departments across the state?
Well, retention is the problem. I mean, not just here. It's nationwide. I mean, it's been talked in the congressional halls of Congress. The pricing of everything after COVID has been discussed in the halls of Congress. Not too terribly long ago, Congress subpoenaed all the fire truck manufacturers in the country to come try to find out why a fire truck costs $1 million now, when prior to COVID it was 400,000. So, when you're looking at the fire service as a whole within my area, the boundaries of this state of Louisiana, it's firemen, and it's unfortunately it's funding. I think many times I have a good friend, Chris Farrar, that builds fire trucks.
Right.
I think many a times, how would I myself, as the fire chief of the department that I retired, how in the world am I going to convince the mayor and the council that I need a new fire truck that costs $1 million? $1 million is the cost of a nice equipped fire truck. There's no way that rural town America, including Louisiana, 'cause we're a part of it, can afford $1 million fire truck when your budget is $300,000. So, and I'm glad Congress did what they did. Fire manufacturers are against each other, but they became best friends on the floor of the Congress
Oh,
that day.
absolutely.
They were,
Yeah.
they were backing each other like they were blood brothers. But, something has got to happen. I've told people throughout this state, I've told and the Louisiana legislators that I counteract with on a regular, something has got to be done in the fire service in reference. There's got to be a cap on equipment. I mean, from helmets to gloves to no mix. I mean, everything is 2 or 3 times more when I was there. And I'm not sure how people afford. I don't know how the departments afford it.
Oh, and if you look at equipment, normal equipment is pretty expensive, but if you get the NFPA approved one, it's like 500 extra. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I remember the fire truck we bought in 1993 at the fire department. It came in. We thought we was high cotton, and wasn't a piece of equipment on it. I looked at the fire chief. I said, "She knew what equipment." Well, I bought it separate. You know, it's okay. So within 3 weeks, equipment was coming, showing up every day, every day, every day. But it's because he bought the equipment, by itself, so it wouldn't be as much as an equipped fire truck.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Save a little money.
yeah. And we got out there and installed all of it and did everything. But to imagine that same style of a truck in 1993 was $189,000, $1 million now.
Yeah.
There's no way that these departments can do it. Yeah, there's just no way. So funding is not just a problem. I think it is the problem, and retaining these firemen that want to be firemen in the beginning, and then wind up that they have to work 2 or 3 jobs to make a living because they love to fight fire. Well, it's hard to serve. Okay, it's hard to serve the way that your heart wants you to serve, and have a good living. I know of a friend of mine right now. He's a doctor, and he volunteers as a fireman,
Mhm.
and absolutely loves to fight fire,
Mhm.
but can't make a living there. Not the living that he wants to have because he's a doctor, but he loves to fight fire. And he said, "Man, if I can make a good living, man, I'd do this." But of course, when he gets used to doctor money, it's hard to go to
bet.
fireman money.
I bet.
But it's easier to start off as fireman money, and that's what I tell people. I said, I don't have anything, don't want anything, don't need anything, but I've enjoyed my 36 years of career right now in the fire service. Don't have big houses or big Cadillacs, but I get along.
As long as you're having fun.
It has been a fun career. It really has. At the end of the day, it's been a fun career. I have thoroughly enjoyed it. I have. It's really been fun. Tonight ends my night as the presidency of this organization that's 121 years old, and I've been asked, especially yesterday after we've had some good classes and good feedbacks, and are you ready for it to be over with? I said, well, I'm beginning to think it might be bittersweet, because I do enjoy, serving, like I've said, and having the opportunity to serve this organization has been great. But tonight I hand the gavel off and become a past president of the association that I've enjoyed to serve for. It's been fun. I don't know when retirement will be here. Maybe one day, but I do enjoy getting up and having the opportunity to go to a firehouse and visit that chief or visit the administrative staff somewhere in the state. And the fire marshal told me yesterday that he's going to give me a few days off to rest, and then we just get on the road again, traveling the state, checking on these fire departments. So it's been a good career so far. I've enjoyed it.
We have anything else you think?
Do I have rapid questions so I get in trouble?
But we do have one just any kind of an odd question we ask at the end. But if you would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
One size duck,
One horse-sized duck
one horse size.
or 100 duck-sized horses?
Either one of them's going to be interesting. Either one of them would be interesting. So I'll take either one of them. Yeah. I wouldn't be scared of either one of them. Which one I'd rather? Which one I'd rather I could defeat?
I'll probably go with 100 duck-sized horses.
Yeah.
You can just kick them.
Yeah. Either one of them would be interesting.
We appreciate you. It's always fun hanging out with you. Everybody watching, appreciate you watching. Coming along this journey as we grow. Interview some amazing people. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe on all streaming platforms so you can stay up to date with all of our episodes we keep out. One day our editor will start putting them out a little sooner. But with that, again, like I said, we appreciate you.
I am very
It's been
honored,
great.
thrilled. I appreciate y'all. Y'all are good people, and y'all got a long career ahead of you on drinking coffee and making calls.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
With that, we'll see everybody next time.
Always remember, stay safe, stay sharp, stay captain.